Okay, on the podcast, we told it was coming, the much-hyped cap on your rates. But so is Christmas 2029. Great policy, good for ratepayers, but here's the big but. Why is it taking until 2029 to fully introduce this rates cap? Jordan Williams from the Taxpayers Union will join me shortly. This allows councils the next 3 years just to hype rates, doesn't it? Let's go.
Are we paying these people to front up, or are we paying them to fly to Wellington to eat their lunch? Should you really lose your career for refusing to take part in a 90-minute lesson about Māori culture? This government doesn't actually have any idea how to get economic growth. Show us what you made of, Prime Minister.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan, Garner.
Okay, g'day, good evening. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Duncan, Garner, Editor-in-Chief. Nice to have you along. And welcome to this podcast. And please subscribe for $7.99 a month. If you text my name, Duncan, to 3598, I'll send you the link straight away. Help us stay here. $7.99 a month. You get extra content every Friday. We'll send it out to you. But crucially, you join Team Duncan. It's a movement, and we appreciate it. Right, this rates cap, 2029, it'll be fully introduced. That is 6 years after National took office. Why so long? People want this now. They want the rates relief now. 6 years after taking office. It's not good enough. Why is this government so slow in introducing things? When it scrapped their pay equity claims, it nailed them in one morning. Saved $12.8 billion in one morning. Yet this will take another 4 years to properly introduce. It is hopeless execution, isn't it? Good policy and a shite rollout. Let's go.
It's the slam dunk.
We are getting, anyway, a rates cap. Rates cap, finally. Great policy. As predicted by your Editor-in-Chief weeks ago, I said it on this podcast, you finally get to control how much they charge you, except not until 2029. Which is when the government might have a surplus, which is 6 years after Chris Luxon took office. Why are all these policies so far away? The KiwiSaver changes, 2032. That's Luxon after 9 years in office. The rates cap, 2029. Will they even be in office? Who knows? And if not, will it just get axed by Labour? Well, they're against it today. Stand by your policy and roll it out now. Have it before Easter next year. You put the councils on notice and they ignored you. Ram this home now. Give us taxpayers and ratepayers some relief now, not in 2029. So this rates cap, let's call this delay what it is. It's a masterclass in political uselessness. People need help with the cost of living now, not in 2029, with a rates cap to be introduced in 1,440 days. That's how far away it is. The cost of living bites now, not in 2029. You offer a rates cap in 4 years. Bugger me. Could you be any more slow, any more out of touch with the urgency and pressure to get on top of this stuff? Great policy, but shite timing. People are gassed now, and you offer a policy that might not be here by the time you're out of office? Luxon's rates cap should have been a thunderclap, the big bold moment where Wellington finally told councils enough. You've milked the public dry, the trough is closed, over. But instead of slamming the lid shut, they've left it sitting open while they hold a committee meeting about how best to close it in 12 to 18 months. It's like watching someone discover a fire in their kitchen and respond by saying, right, let's schedule a hui about extinguishing options. The delay is embarrassing, and I wonder if Luxon, who held this portfolio in opposition, even realises how bad it looks. Ratepayers aren't just under pressure. They're on the receiving end of a financial beating from councils who treat rates increases like an annual festival. And just when someone finally steps up with a tool to stop the madness, the government delivers it in geological time. Councils see the delay and they're licking their chops. Up it goes. You watch the next 3 years. Council spending is already out of control, and ratepayers are picking up the bill. The latest data shows this, and it shows exactly why we need the rates cap now, not later. Total council spending rose 7.6% to $18.41 billion compared to March 2024. Yet employee costs have jumped 10%. Interest payments soared almost 17%. It's clear that councils aren't exercising financial discipline. Wellington has identified 330 staff surplus to requirements. And it just blew $2 million on some public toilets, 5 toilets with some rainbow lights. And Chris Bishop put the councils on notice with a hard-hitting speech to the local government conference in Christchurch. Now, this is how they turn up to show they've teeth. It's like a baby turning up, and it's chewing them with their gums. What is a great policy has now been ruined by the lengthy lead-in time. Get some balls and some nuts and some backbone and act now. Oh, you're bringing in a cap. Great. We'll just double the increases before it arrives, is what the councils are saying. They're playing a game of supermarket sweep with public money. Sprinting down the aisles, tossing everything into the cart while Wellington strolls along, reading the labels. And the government, they're standing there like, We're committed to reform, truly. We're just not committed to doing it anytime soon. We'll wait for another ice age. That's what they're saying. This isn't implementation, it's procrastination. Dressed up in a suit and tie. Luxon didn't mention the timing in his comments, and Simon Watt also didn't say much about it either. It came a few minutes into their speeches. Luxon overlooked timing completely in his comments. And Watts is hoping councils get the message before 2029. They're going to jawbone these rates increases down. No, they're not. There's no legal cap before 2029. Just a request from government to start ASAP. Oh, yeah, you think that's going to work? The legislation to bring in the rates cap is yet to be drafted and won't be passed until later next year. If you're lucky. This is a debacle. What was so good has been botched. Luxon says households have made cuts and are living within their means, and he says so has the government. No, you're not. It's hugely not. It still borrows more than $500 million every week to make ends meet. The government hasn't cut like it said it was going to. They had a mandate to, and they haven't. Jordan Williams will say more on this shortly. It could cut more, and it hasn't. It hasn't been tough at all. But 2029. It seems such a long way off. It's baffling. It's insulting. It's the kind of slow-motion political dithering that makes people roll their eyes so hard they can see their own brain. You can't announce a policy to stop financial bleeding and then deliver it with all the urgency of a learner driver in the fast lane. You can't claim to be tackling rate hikes while giving councils a year-long head start to pump them even higher. You're bloody dreamers. You can't preach discipline and then move at a pace that would embarrass a statue. If Luxon wants this rates cap to mean anything, he needs to stop letting it wither on the bureaucratic vine. Flip the switch and throw the lever and do it now. Do something that actually resembles urgency, Mr. Luxon. Because right now, the only thing more outrageous than the rate hikes is the government's pathetic, weak-kneed, bottom-of-the-barrel delay in stopping them. Good policy wrecked by terrible speed. A fix that arrives after the damage is done. It's not a fix, it's a masterclass and offering excuses. It's a joke. Right, Jordan Williams from the Taxpayers Union is with us now. And, God, I think I've delivered the sermon there. G'day, Jordan. How are you? Nice to see you.
G'day, Duncan.
Yeah, good to see you. Haven't caught up for a little while. 2029, this thing will finally kick in properly. My goodness, that's 6 years after they took office. Why can't they get it earlier? People want this relief now.
That's a good question. And it's the Minister says that councils need the time to adjust. Well, I mean, I don't get time to adjust to them putting up rates every year. They've put rates up on average 35% over the last 3 years, and you can bet your bottom dollar they're going to put that up at least that again over the next 3 years as they warm up for the baseline for this rates cap. And we're already seeing it. Auckland's mayor is proposing the highest ever super city rate increase, and they want to lock that in before these rates caps come into effect. It's nuts. We said the whole time, it's not just cap rates. You got to do it now. You've got to do it before they can lock in higher increases. No regulator or price control regulator says we're gonna come in and you're free to do what you like over the next few years, but in a few years we're going to cap it to where it is. I mean, that's why they had those budgets. I remember growing up, as a young fellow watching the budget night and that sort of thing, and you would see these things come in immediately because that's what they had to do. So there was always that shock, I suppose, and this has to be the same thing. Chris Bishop went to Christchurch, made a big speech and said, you guys aren't up to it, you've lost your mandate. He gave them the warning. They've had a year's warning. They're ready for this. And if they're not ready, they better get ready. As did Simon Watts literally outside the local government NZ conference, and on the back of our ute in front of our cap rates now truck. That they are being seriously naive if the ministers think they can jawbone councils to keep rates low over the next 3 years. That hasn't worked. It hasn't worked for the last 20 years. It's not going to work over the next 3. And ratepayers are again going to pay dearly for it. Most councils are doing their long-term plans, or their 10-year budgets. They have to do them every 3 years. Most councils are doing them next year, in the first 6 months. It would be very easy to get the bill into Parliament the first quarter next year, get it passed by the end of May. So when the councils have to have set their 10-year budgets by the end of June, that it is at that with that cap. I just cannot explain why they'd give councils another 3 years, because what we will see is they will absolutely ramp them up to get to that high baseline, including the councils that actually don't have high rates, because they'll be incentivized to get up there. The other argument that the councils are running is, oh, but we need the money for infrastructure. Well, actually, the biggest spend of councils is on the three waters, and that is being moved to a separate economic entity, and well, not all the case entities, but a separate economic regulator, and will be regulated in the same way as electricity lines. So you've got the check and balance there. So the rates, doesn't fit under that.
And the government says, oh, look, we've all got our house in order now. But I actually argue that the government hasn't. They're still borrowing money. So they sit there and they say, oh, well, households are doing it hard. Yes, well, we don't have any other option. Government says, well, we're doing it hard. Well, are they? They're still borrowing $500 million every week.
Well, it's worse than that. It's not that they're still borrowing. Nicola Willis is borrowing more per day than Grant Robinson was per day when he left office. Nicola Willis was elected on a promise to reduce government spending. Government spending, both in real terms and as a proportion of the economy, is higher than when Labor left office. And as a result, we're seeing the continued cost of living crisis and the effective boot on the throat of the New Zealand economy right now is supersized government. This government has made it bigger, not smaller, and we don't need to wonder why the New Zealand economy hasn't bounced back in the way the rest of the world has. It is because Nicola Willis has totally failed to deliver what she promised to do, which was get the books back into shape. The weekend before last, Christopher Luxon addressed National Party supporters in Wellington, where he said, we are not the party to give the economic sugar hit. That's the other side. That's Labor. Well, that's just not true. And, all he needs to do is go downstairs and visit his Minister of Finance's office, or go and ask Treasury, because what the product they are selling to the New Zealand public is not what they have delivered. And I think the public know. And it is why they're taking a hammering in the polls. If they are a one-term government, you ask yourself the question, is it that they've done too much? Is it that they're doing stuff like good policy, like capping rates and tackling the Labour's, the size of the bureaucracy, the overspending? Or is it that they're going too slow, that they're slow walking so many of these measures? Well, I would argue it's definitely...
Well, I'd argue they're not doing enough. I would argue they're not only slow walking, but they're not doing anything. Even the KiwiSaver changes. Okay, so we need to save more, but that's lumping it on employers, but that won't happen until 2032. Now, Luxon's not likely to be in office in 2029 or 2032. It's 2 terms away, this rates cap, and the KiwiSaver stuff's 3 terms away. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, on this basis, we're going to get tax relief. I'm just waiting for Nicola Willis to announce we're going to get tax relief in 2042. We're going to get back into surplus in 2062. It isn't serious, and the public know it, and voters know it. And I would suggest that is why the government is doing so poorly, and why our pollsters tell us it's a 50-50 chance of whether this is a one-term government. And
Labor's not going to come in and be careful. I mean, Labor's quite clearly said it's going to tax and spend.
Well, it's actually given away by Christopher Hipkins. He has this little credit card you might have seen that he holds up. I think he calls it the Medicard or something. Make no mistake, that is your credit card. They're going to, they've already spent the money for their capital gains tax. They've already spent that. Everything they're promising is more debt, unless they're going to break their promise and actually tax up the wazoo too. But you can only, the size of government is now getting so high. There's only so many ways you can skin a cat or pluck the goose, and that's the problem that the UK has got itself into. That the body politic assumes that everything, we just have to tax harder. That's the only way out of this mess. But there comes a point where you can't really go much further, because the impact on growth actually sees it blowing a hole. I thought it was frankly outrageous that the Deputy Secretary of Treasury 2 weeks ago was arguing, well, it's inevitable we have to increase taxes because the books are unsustainable. Well, the second part of that is true, but the first part is not. We do not have a revenue problem in New Zealand. We have a spending problem. And that, what made the last election so unique is every member of that government, ACT, New Zealand First, and National, all were elected on promises to reduce the size of government, to get back in control and rein in the excesses that were a result of COVID and the last government. They've simply not done it. And there comes a point where the blame only rests at their feet, not
So how can Luxon get away with it then? How come? Because he's really up the ante in the last few weeks by saying we've got our house in order, we have cut spending, we've got a tight we've got a tight approach. We've got a tight approach, is what he's saying. We're relooking at all this stuff. Yeah. They've just reallocated money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you if I spend less money on a flash car and instead buy a pool. I can't say to my wife, "Oh, darling, I've saved a lot of money." Exactly. I think this is, and I think New Zealanders get it. The public get it, and we're seeing it in the poll. How is Mr. Luxon getting away with it? Well,
he's not.
He's not.
Do you think they could lose?
Oh, look, it's 50-50. There is a, we pay the person who John Key described as New Zealand's best pollster to, poll every month. He's consistently got the closest to the final election results. And, the advice from the pollsters is it's 50-50.
He's squandered it. I mean, Luxon has squandered the chance. You very rarely get a platform to govern in this country. You've got 3 years, and they've virtually done nothing. They have really done nothing.
Well, the real missed opportunity was that first budget.
Yes.
I think the problem fundamentally is inside National. They're trying to dance to John Key's tune.
Different time,
of
though.
Softly. In an environment, where the music is different. The electorates around the world are looking for bold action, and the sort of the apologetic Tories of trying to be softly and not really, standing for much, and not, providing the strong contrast to the path towards even bigger government and big bold socialism that where a lot of the left is going is showing up in the polls. I just come back to the what I think is a fundamental question: is ask yourself, if this is a one-term government, if they do get knocked out, will it have been because they've done too much or because they've done too little? I would argue that it is because they've done too little. Look at last week, the way the government passed the Regulatory Responsibility Act, Bill, now Act. And and I think it's actually it's nothing to do with the treaty. It's basically forcing officials and sponsoring ministers and governments to ask
not that controversial.
Some fundamental questions. You want to bring a law? Will it? Yeah. Who's affected? What's the justification? What's the cost?
It's no big deal. It's a committee.
Are you compensating? Yeah. Are you confiscating property, etc., etc.? It's not particularly radical stuff. But what Nicola Willis did by saying, "Oh, well, the National Party might go into the election, promising to repeal it," is she's legitimising all the opposition to it and driving energy to the other side for absolutely no political upside.
There's no gain.
I don't know whether whether there's some sort of animosity towards ACT or something like that. I don't know. But for someone who claims to be, a very serious politician, I really scratch my head at where the where the political antennae is, because there seems to be and even this, we know that rates capping is popular. Even Greens and Labour Party voters think it is absolutely fantastic, because it is. It absolutely is. But what do the Nats do? They screw it up.
Well, they have screwed it up. They have left it so long. They're running so long. They've given councils a chance to put rates up, and people get no relief. So it's the worst of all worlds. Plus, they've now put a 4% minimum increase in every year.
2%, but
2 to 4.
But I think we'll fix that. But the thing is, though, is you've now given the whole local government blob every incentive to get rid of you.
Yeah, but you could you arguably councils in the future could say 4% every year. So over 10 years, your rate's got up 40%. So every year 4%, 4%, 4%. Because that's what they'll do.
Well, not for the next 3 years. For the next
could
3
be
years, I think it'll be 40%.
Yes. Oh God, it's a cock up, man.
And you're going to get your rates bill. The other shoe to drop on this file, Duncan, is next year. A lot of New Zealanders are going to be getting separate water bills because water's being quite rightly, separated out from councils. Do you trust your local council to reduce your rates in proportion to the department that it is losing? Or do you think they'll just, thank you, we'll bank that?
It's an increase.
I think that is a major political risk for the government in the third quarter next year. And what it will do is and Labor know this is coming. Ironically, I speak to ministers and they don't seem to fully comprehend this, but I do know Labor get it because they're going to try to march in, mark my words, and say, well, this is why we needed 3 waters.
Yeah. Well, Labor's said this morning they completely oppose the rates cap now. They even though Labor supporters might like it, and I think they probably do, Labor Party, their spokesperson this morning said, no, we don't support it. So they're
well, of course, because they're captured by the managerial class. That's the modern that's the modern left, and this is this is a policy where it is Tim the taxpayer, Ruth the ratepayer, standing up and saying enough.
Well, people don't have the money.
People are
over
it. Everyone has to have their costs under control, except local government, who seem to run this perpetual cost plus model, where their own inefficiency and actually. It's not just inefficiency in infrastructure delivery. The huge growth across the sector is not in infrastructure spending. It is in payroll. It is in their staff.
Look at Wellington.
I was thinking actually Auckland is a proportion of the budget. It's where they persistently just blow out year after year after year. Let me just find that.
So Wellington said the other day, 330 staff. They've got 330 staff too many.
Staff.
330.
Yeah, Auckland Council's annual payroll is 1.3 billion in staff costs.
And that's not contractors, is it?
No, that's their payroll. So, and you compare that for the amount they spend on roads and footpaths, the capex is less than half that, 605 million.
What are these people doing? Well, who knows?
It's a question for them. But look, Wayne Brown, the guy who was supposed to sort out waste and be the ratepayer hero, he says that, oh no, it's impossible, this rates cap, can't do that. And yet only earlier this year was saying I'm not going to go higher than 2% above inflation.
Yeah.
Well, he's a lame duck. He's in the last term and he doesn't have to face the public again.
Yeah.
I think that's
the truth, isn't it?
And it's been there's been quite a major shift to the left within his office and the staff he's chosen, and I think he's well, as you say,
you can see that. You can see that. God, this is such a squandered opportunity. I mean, the rates cap, I was right in favour of it. I thought you guys did some really good work on this, and I thought, well, they'll do this before Christmas. So they announced it before Christmas. The legislation isn't. There's no bill. Nothing's been written up.
It's not been drafted. No, I'm reliably informed.
Yeah, no, there hasn't been. I got told that last night. Now, if that's the case, then they've just rushed this forward because they want some momentum because they're in trouble in the polls. But people aren't fools.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's why we're seeing it in the polls. Here is something. It's good policy. It's done many places around the world, and it's fantastic politics. And even better, Labor are swinging against the tide of public opinion on this. Why wouldn't you lean in? And yet they at the last hurdle they've capitulated.
Yeah, I would say this will be law by the next budget. That's what I would have said. I would have said this will be introduced to the House in our first 2 weeks of Parliament next year, and we'll have it passed by Easter. And this will be the Easter bunny coming. This is your prize, not chocolate, but it's going to be money, and we're saving you money into the future. It had to come in next year. It's such a lame duck policy now because it's such a long roll-in. It's such a long lead time. It's just disappointing.
We might still win it. I mean, We've still got, cap rates now, banners to go around the country and things like that. We're going to change it to really emphasise the now part.
But Luxon didn't even mention that yesterday. When Luxon gave his presentation on it, he said a few things. He never once said the date. He never once picked up on this.
This is one of the few policies. Because remember, Luxon had this portfolio when he was before he was leader. He had the local government portfolio, and it is a surprise he didn't really have his head fully around it, or hasn't followed the detail. I can't explain it. I don't know, but look, let's step back. In the space of 5 months, the Taxpayers Union has turned something from absolutely nothing, and it's something the government has adopted. Our greatest complaint is it's going to take too long, but in these unique cases, this isn't just a change in law, it allows it to be gained. Yeah. So we've won the moral argument and we've won the policy debate. We just have to get that last. That's why I put out that urgent email last night saying, look, we've got to double down. This isn't the time to take the foot off the accelerator. We've got to double down. So I've still got hats. We've still got signs.
You've got room to win this argument still. But it's not just gaming for 1 year. They could game this for 3 more years. And this is the problem. The real damage could still come, and is likely to come if we can't get this thing. Luxon surely has to see this criticism, doesn't he?
I just don't have the insight. We'll see. I mean, the Taxpayers Union is not the sort of organisation where we're sneaky behind closed doors, whispering in the ears. We wear our heart on our sleeves. We lobby with megaphones, and what I tell ministers and MPs is exactly what I'm telling your listeners, which is we've got the cap rates, good, but it's got to be now. Otherwise, you are going to be absolutely made a fool of by those mayors that not only don't want to see you succeed, want to see you fail.
Oh, well, and we know they do, because you've seen that with Māori wards and everything. They are going to be humiliated, not over 1 year, but maybe over 2. And I wonder, I was just changing this for a second. What's the size of the public service? Have they taken any numbers out?
Last figures I saw, and they're updated every few months, is that at its height of the cuts, it's 4% smaller. That's the most generous interpretation. 3 months ago, it was still higher than when Ardern left office. It's a real. There's various different ways to measure it, but if you exclude the sort of frontline workers, it is maybe marginally smaller. But of course, you also need to look at the consultancy spend as well, which in fairness, a lot of agencies have managed to bring that down significantly. But I mean, fundamentally, they haven't gone in there and asked the fundamental questions of why are we doing this? Why do we have this department within this
they
department
haven't done it
when we didn't need that? Why do we have the duplication of all these special interest government agencies? That's really a question for National Act and New Zealand First. I thought it was absolutely extraordinary that you had the Associate Minister of Finance respond to Nicola Willis's call, trying to identify savings in the lead up to this year's budget, and David Seymour did good and provided billions of dollars of savings, and Nicola Willis adopted just 4% of them. She has. I am of a reasonably strong view that a lot of the government's woes, a la the economy, rest squarely at the foot of a Minister of Finance who I'm not sure is up to the task, or at least if she is not doing what she promised to do, and is fudging it all over the place. To suggest that they are getting spending under control is a fudge.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, you could maybe it's another word for that. Yeah. You're misleading the country because the truth, the figures don't show that. I think she's out of her depth, and I've held this position for the last 2 years because I knew she's smart, but in other areas, and I don't believe she's a finance minister. I believe she's a communicator. She's a writer.
I don't want to, I don't want to quite go there, but I mean, she has been. I cannot understand some of the political decisions being made in that office. I mentioned last week about last week on that having a swing at X, one of its core policies. Number two would be her weird criticism of my chair, Ruth Richardson, who was only minister for 3 years. Inherited very similar economic situation, massive deficits, having to bail out then New Zealand's second largest bank, inflation in the teens,
massive,
and a recession. Within 3 years, when Ruth left, inflation was 2%, economic growth was 5%. And she delivered.
But they took tough decisions. Graham Scott gave them a warning when they came into office. They said it's totally different to what you think it is. You need some tough action.
That's what our Treasury's doing now. But they're ignoring them. There sounding the klaxons,
and they're ignoring them. Willis is not up to it. She doesn't know how to.
Well, it's worse than ignoring them, because they're reassuring the public that all is under control when it's clearly not. We are borrowing more per day. Go and have a look.
I've seen it.
Deadclock.nz. Track it in real time. We are borrowing more per day than when Grant Robinson left office. Government spending is higher, no matter how you measure it, in real terms or as a percentage of the economy. We have not grown at all on a GDP per capita basis. The economy on a per person basis is smaller than when this government left office. How's bells? If this is what good looks like, God help us.
We've contracted.
We have. We have.
How long does it take to get rid of?
And it's a fudge. Even the pathway back to surplus is dependent on inventing a measure for which Treasury does not support.
Yeah, but we also
this Obergau.
Yeah, exactly. But we also this year, Christopher Luxon returned from his holiday and said we're going to get this is the year of economic growth. What a disaster! They did nothing to back that up. I mean, to get economic growth, you have to change settings. You have to have a plan. You don't just say it and hope. That's Jacinda Ardern. You click your fingers and hope something happens. That's Ardern-esque.
In fairness to Christopher Luxon and to the other ministers that are doing, there is a lot of good reform going on around the place, and we'll see in next week we're likely to see the RMA stuff. So I mean, I'm not totally dismissive of it, but in terms of the economy, the handbrake is the size of government, and with the greatest respect, Nicola Willis had one job, and it was to tackle that. And whether I disagree, I push back. I don't think that she's incapable of it, but for whatever reason, she's chosen not to, and that is not
why. Why?
That is a question for her. I mean, she's not going to like. We've got quite a major campaign launching next week that will highlight a lot of these fudge numbers, to highlight the elephants in the room, and that simply what the government is saying and what's on the tin and what the fudges on the inside are quite different. And she's going to. We know she's quite vindictive and a gameplay. You look at the stuff with Ruth, but also the stuff against who's the Labor. Grant Robinson's former staffer at CTU, Craig Rennie, and that whole ugly business of trying to ban people from the budget and saying it's not me, it's Treasury, and then actually the paper turns out it's her. This is not the sort of behaviour of someone serious and needed for the times.
You're too busy for that shit.
Yeah, well, you
used the word fudge.
And so I know next week she's going to have
she will hate it. She'll hate this because she'll take it personally. But you use the word fudge. It's basically they're misleading or lying to the New Zealand public. That's what it is. They're not telling the truth.
Well, I think I'm going to stick with.
You're a lawyer.
Next week. I do had that. That's a part of my life. But defamation's an area I'm happy not to revisit.
I don't know, but I reckon there's as a public figure, if you're saying they're fudging it, then it's pretty close to. We know what you're saying. I think it's pretty clear. Jordan, I appreciate your time, mate. We'll always appreciate your time on the program. We should get you on before the end of next week as well to look at some of this fudging stuff.
Well, I think you should, if not me. I mean, put these questions to
we will.
Nicola Willis. I mean, because that's the poor old Chris Luxon gets a hard time in the media. But I do think that, that because that's actually the objective of next week's campaign, is to inject those home truths into the minds of the journalists and opinion setters as they write their columns over summer.
Yeah.
Because this is not a nasty cutting government. It simply is not doing the job that they promised, or the New Zealand public tasked.
No, and they had a mandate. The thing is, they actually had a mandate. They had the political credit to go and do it. They had the power, they had the ability, and they had the public on their side to go big in this area, to be conservative, to cut stuff, to be that government that had to take some tough decisions, because everyone had got sick of the largesse, and they didn't take the opportunity, not the first year, not the second year. It's too late now. Yeah.
They didn't. As a businessman who I know is reasonably close to Luxon said the other day to me, they squandered the opportunity to get their cost structure under control.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, right. Bit of feedback that's come in. Hi, Duncan. Just seen your latest podcast on the HPAs in the Gulf. This is the high protection areas, and that's a bloody joke too. Last Saturday, 22nd, we all went out to protest peacefully on the very issues that you have mentioned. There were over 500 boats, skis, utes in the protest. In fact, I'd say it was more like 800 vehicles all up. I do apologise for any inconvenience that it may have caused, but this was the working people's time to have our say. There was people from all walks of life, and most had never done a protest before. It was great. It was a great time had by all. It also has been mentioned that the recreational sector brings in approximately $1.6 billion to the New Zealand economy every year in direct and indirect value such as bait and ice and tackle accommodation. I would highly encourage you to speak with the people who are involved with the One Ocean protest if you're interested in going further on this matter, as they were and still are willing to stand up on these matters and fight for us. As one person told me at the protest, we've been ripped off and screwed over. It's better we all stand up now or we lose what it means to be a Kiwi outdoors man. Cheers, Cody. Thank you, Cody. Appreciate it, mate. Hi, Duncan. I'm writing in the hope that you'll pass this on to the appropriate people. Mount Maunganui and the Black Fins, New Zealand Surf Lifesaving Team, are hosting 11 countries of the best sport surf lifesavers from around the world. For a sport so vital to New Zealand, this has seen absolutely no coverage. Doesn't even make it to the Herald. Well, that's no surprise. This is disappointing. These athletes strive for excellence in both their sport and their volunteer life as lifeguards. I absolutely cannot understand that with no recognition whatsoever in the New Zealand media. Not sure this email will see the light of day, but hoping to highlight our sport. Warm regards, Caro. Caro, I've mentioned it because it was over the weekend. You guys did really well, and I'm not sure it's up for this podcast to give it huge coverage. But the media's asleep at the wheel. I saw the numbers of people in Tauranga over the weekend, massive. So well done to your team, and hopefully this gives it some kind of acknowledgement. Right, that is us. If you can subscribe, please do so. $7.99 a month. If you text the my name Duncan to 3598, and I'll send you the link. You will crucially be saving us here. You'll be keeping us here, and you will be joining the movement. Team Duncan. Don't trust the mainstream media. You can trust us. So $7.99 a month. Text my name Duncan to 3598. I'll flick you the link. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. It means that we stay around. Lockie, Brody, thank you guys. Always appreciate what you guys do for the podcast. Without you, we'd be nothing. So thank you so much, Lockie, for everything you do, mate. And we'll do it all again tomorrow. Remember, life's a dress rehearsal. No curtain raiser. This is it. We live in one of the best places on earth. So get out and damn enjoy it. And don't worry about your rates. They'll be going sky high in the next 3 years. Government's absolutely hopeless on this. I'm sorry. I find it just hopeless. A political masterclass in uselessness. I think that's probably the best line of the day. Right, that's us, folks. Catch you tomorrow. Ta-da.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.